Well, the lakefront of Chicago is a big draw to everyone. Today, I'm going to take a little walking tour on a quiet day. I'm going to walk from one of the northern suburbs of Wilmette all the way down to downtown Chicago and show you the great variation in the lakefront, housing stock, and neighborhoods along the way. Never done this before. Should be really interesting and provide a lot of insight. If you're new to Chicago or looking to move here or live here already, should be fun. I think it's around 14 miles one way from Wilmette to downtown Chicago. It's about a 35-minute drive with no traffic, where you can look at the lakefront the whole way. Wilmette has many beautiful neighborhoods. It's one of the closest suburbs to Chicago. And the new construction is very hot here, but you know, you can get homes or townhomes starting around 400,000, very commonly from 800 to about 1.3, 1.4, very common range. And a lot of people are moving up here with younger kids now because of the schools and to get out of the city many times. So take you on a little tour here of each neighborhood along the way. So this is my sign right here. I just sold this home behind me that's going to be knocked down, and a builder, very reputable builder here, is going to put up a new home. And then across the street, I'm in Wilmette, by the way, my starting point here. Across the street is a brand new home on the same type of lot that was built a few years ago, I think right before COVID. And then the rest of the street is a lot of vintage homes and some new construction. You'll see a lot of signs all over the place here in people's front yards, all down the block, because there's a lot of controversy and concern right now about Northwestern University expanding their football stadium to include concerts. They're going to build a huge, very expensive stadium if they're allowed to, and people are not happy about the noise potential, crowds. You know, I think it's split. I think most people are against it, honestly, and there are some concerns, but there are others who think, oh, well, it might be fun or won't be that big a deal. So we'll see what happens, but definitely see the reasons for concern: traffic, construction trucks, property values of homes, like right where I'm walking right now, potentially if things are perceived poorly when it's built. So we'll see what happens. This is Isabella Street here. It's a little busier street. It's the border between Wilmette and Evanston, and Northwestern's football stadium is just down the street here, one block. And this is kind of, you know, the center point for concern about the football stadium. So walking down streets in Evanston here now, you see 2 flats, 2 units in this apartment building. Across the street, you'll see other apartment buildings that have multiple units. The housing stock changes a bit here, and there's homes, 2 flats, 3 flats. It starts to feel, you know, just slightly, very slightly more urban once you get into Evanston, but it's an absolute beautiful area close to the lake. Just a little different flavor is all. Okay, that was pretty funny. I'm walking along and a neighbor pulls up, yells at me, hello. And then the guy who I was just walking by, who's watering his lawn here in Evanston, is a friend of hers. She's a journalist, she's an author. And this guy, I didn't know it, but he's one of the main voices on one of Chicago's news channels for a long time. So he was telling me I had a nice setup here for my video, so, which I think he was being nice, but anyways, you never know who you'll run into in any of these areas. I sold this home here in Evanston to someone moving from out of state. They've done a lot of work. They absolutely love the location, and there's Ryan Field, the football stadium right there. So A lot of people have lived here a long time on these streets. People come and they stay a long time because they like it so much. Okay, I had to stop for some quick caffeine to get ready for this walk and tour of the lakefront here. I'm at Hune, which is a great coffee shop and bakery, and just got a little coffee to start the walk. And there's a lot of great businesses in Evanston. Just across the street you can see a lot of new apartments that have been built. There's a great restaurant there. There's a great art center here. Evanston has a lot going on. It's like a city suburban combo. Quiet, but lots to do. This is Mustard's last stand. This hot dog stand has been here absolutely forever. I have no idea how long, maybe 50 years. And across the street from it is Northwestern's football stadium and parking lots where everything happens on Saturdays, tailgating, everything. This is the Chicago River right behind me. It goes all through this area, and then there is a golf course that's been significantly renovated recently. They also have concerts here on the weekends at night. It draws a nice crowd, and just a beautiful area to hang out in the summer. Canal Shores has been here since 1919, and they've just really renovated, and they have kids programs here. All kinds of kids golfing camps. I've heard really good things about it. And like I said, concerts for the adults and the kids on the weekends in the summer. Getting close to the lakefront, there's some nice older homes here on just a beautiful street here in Evanston. Getting real close to Northwestern University's campus. And then across the street, a lot of newer homes that were built on this vacant lot. This is Northwestern University's campus right here. Some of the academic buildings, some of the fraternity houses, newer buildings, and then very historic buildings. Just a few steps from the lakefront, and we're about 2 miles into the walk. So just about 2 miles from Wilmette and about a mile from downtown Evanston. This is Northwestern's beautiful soccer stadium, and it's right up on the lakefront here. Bike path, runners, lakefront, and then you can see straight ahead downtown Chicago. Off in the distance, I get the camera right there. You can see the skyline. Beautiful day like this, there's boats cruising by, there's jet skiers. This is one of the most beautiful spots in the Chicago area on Northwestern's campus, looking at the skyline and then the beaches of Evanston and then the campus of Northwestern, the running path, biking path, and then some of the band is practicing up there, games coming up. The beaches in Evanston you have to pay to be on. It's a great beach, and it's also the sailing club right here. You can learn to sail. And then you can see how many people are out there. It's a beautiful beach in the fall too. And then getting closer to Chicago and the skyline here. Being by the Northwestern campus is pretty awesome for anybody living along the lakefront or in the northern suburbs. There are many condos, small condos. You can get into Evanston, you know, pretty inexpensively, really. And then there's homes up to $5 million along the lakefront. So, you know, just really a beautiful, beautiful place to hang out. And the university having all their athletic events here, basketball, football, baseball, is just a lot of fun for kids and anyone to go see when they're growing up here or living here. If you like to run, this is one of the best gravel trails around Chicago, through northern Evanston, and then the bike path right next to it. One of the most beautiful, peaceful spots, and so close to the city. Okay, let's be honest, the summer is the best time along the lakefront. It is just gorgeous. People having picnics, the dog beach, just met a nice new dog. Just beautiful down here. And the homes that are right up along this park most of them are very historic, and they'll sell anywhere from, you know, 1.5 to 3 million on a regular basis. The most expensive ones that have sold over 3. There's not that many, and they really top out. I think historically the highest priced home in Evanston that sold is right around 4.6 million. I think I sold the second highest one, 4.5 million, a few years back. But you know, many of the condos are close to this park, and many apartments for student housing and otherwise. So there's a lot of affordable places to live in Evanston, and, you know, beautiful historic homes. Not as many new construction. A lot of them are renovated historic homes. This is another one of Evanston's great beaches, offering sailing again. This one's a little more secluded. There's actually some of the historic homes are creeping in here right across from the beach, and we'll continue on from this point to have a lot of historic homes. You see some beautiful homes here, and these particular homes are directly across the street from the park and the lake. So you see the sunrise in the morning, and the street here is really quiet. Very little traffic, except for a busy holiday weekend like this. You'll see some more people, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And the homes have just an incredible view. They don't have their own private beaches, but they don't have the price of the home with the private beaches either. This one is one of my favorite ones. It's surrounded by beautiful landscaping, and the top room of this home just has an incredible view of the lake and the sunrise in the morning. Just a beautiful, beautiful home. Just another great beach, really getting close to Chicago now. Things will change a bit. This again is one of the more beautiful homes here, looking at the lake and the park. If you have any questions about homes like this, or any homes or real estate in Evanston, just call, text, email. Any questions, anytime, no problem. I'm standing right in front of a home that is owned by a former Chicago professional athlete. I sold him this home, and it's right on the lakefront. So right there, they look at the lake outside of almost every window in the house. You know, it's a beautiful home, and they've really enjoyed it. It's on a cul-de-sac here, so it's a dead end right across from a park. Very quiet location. And then I just sold the other home next to it too. It sits up high, kind of on a little hill, and it has an incredible view of the lake and park. You can see it. You're not on it. The lake won't spray on your home, but it has a beautiful view, especially of the sunrise in the morning. This home is right on the lake, but it has a very, very deep lot. It has a huge yard, has rocks by the lake to protect the home. Needs a lot of renovation. I brought 3 offers to this home in the last couple years, but they just weren't ready to sell yet. The home next door has been doing a renovation, major renovation, multi-million-dollar renovation for the last 2 years. It's beautiful in the back. Has windows just looking at the lake, and here we're just getting about less than half a mile to Chicago. This home behind me is a mid-century modern home. People typically either love them or hate them, and when they love them, they really love them. They want them bad. There aren't that many of them. This home sold for a very, very high price in the past year, about $3 million. Has no lake view, has no lake access, and has a very moderate to smaller backyard. But the people just loved the uniqueness of the home and paid really an obscene price for it, just a high market price. So pretty interesting sale. It was a nice home, but I think they just hit an absolute grand slam on the price of this one. Well, that was kind of fun. I just went by the very last house before you hit the park and the beach here, and so an older gentleman having a tool sale in his driveway, selling old tools. So I had to ask if he'd like to sell his house, because with the view and the access here, it's extremely desirable property. So he had obviously been asked that question about 1 million times, and we had some good laughs. He said the divorce would be too expensive, meaning his wife would kill him if he sold a house, and he said he's starting to think about charging people a quarter every time they go by his driveway, and he was pretty funny. So anyways, this is some serious desirable real estate right here, and then right across, you can see up here, old historic apartment building with views of the lake. And you know, this is really getting to the curve which goes around the cemetery, which takes you into Chicago. This is the end of the suburbs almost. Well, this is it. This is Evanston's entrance behind me. We're now going to enter Chicago. This is the last beach in Evanston. Paved beaches, great beach, and then right across the street here, it's the cemetery, and the road that enters and leaves Evanston into Chicago. There's a big curve, probably about almost half a mile long into Chicago, and then it's a really large historic cemetery right across the street. Well, we made it to Chicago. Some clients have owned that home for 50, 60 years. The lake goes right up on it, especially when the lake level's high. You can see the beach is all rocks now. It used to be sand. And this is the entrance into Rogers Park here, the first neighborhood in Chicago, neighborhood where I grew up. Rogers Park, the first neighborhood in the city, is very eclectic, diverse. It's been called the center of the universe by people that have grown up here. The connections go for a long time, far and wide. One of the many neat things about Rogers Park is the streets. As you can see behind me is the lake. The streets all dead end right into the lake. So this neighborhood has the best access to the lake out of any neighborhood in the entire city. You can literally walk feet, 10, 20, 50 feet, or 1 or 2 blocks and be right on sand and on beautiful beaches that really are lightly used just by people in the neighborhood. Behind me on Sheridan Road, one of the main busiest streets in Chicago and the go-between between Rogers Park and Evanston, is a Frank Lloyd Wright house built in 1915. A very historic house. A client of mine has owned it for many years, and you know, when I was inside years ago, just a beautiful, beautiful, interesting house. One thing you'll see in Rogers Park that you won't see anywhere else is a lot of people walking across the street going to the beach. And it is a busy, busy location, busy street. This is the city here, and you would never know it, but there's beautiful beaches 1 block away that everyone uses. Behind me is the 400 movie theater, the oldest movie theater in Chicago. They've been fighting to keep it open for years, and they just finally said it's closed. A block and a quarter from the beach right now, I'm on a street in Rogers Park. This is the building I personally grew up in. It's a 3-unit building, big building. We owned it growing up. It's right on an alley, so plenty of noise growing up. And we used to pack the front stairs with snow, and with this long runway here, do a sled. My sister would stand in the street to make sure cars weren't coming. So, you know, we were city kids. We played in this alley. Not a lot of stuff going on at the park. We played in the alley. So this is typical Rogers Park block. A lot of 2 flats, 3 flats. The drugstore is now a Starbucks. It's a beautiful neighborhood, very, very eclectic, and a block from the beach. This is Columbia Beach in Rogers Park, one of the best, most secluded beaches in the city. This is about the most crowded you will ever see it. Many times in the summer, fall, It's real quiet and has a great vibe. People from the neighborhood mostly hanging out. It's kind of a hidden treasure. This is the street that leads to Columbia Beach, just one block from the busy street. And this building right here, I believe a mansion used to be here. There are many mansions here. This is a very high profile neighborhood, you know, back at the turn of the century. There's the downtown skyline off in the distance. It's getting closer and closer as we go. And these beaches are just superb. This is where I grew up. That's Loyola University's campus right there. These beaches are just an absolute joy to grow up on or walk down to if you live in this neighborhood. I'm standing on what's often regarded as the best block in Rogers Park because the homes are beautiful. They're some of the biggest homes in East Rogers Park. They are half a block, a quarter block, 1 block from the lake. And there's a beautiful park at the end of the street. It's just really, there's families that have lived here multi-generation and, you know, just really love it here still today. This is Loyola University's campus. Working my way south to downtown Chicago. Right up on the lakefront. They tried to go out into the lake years ago, but the Army Corps of Engineers said no, so they bought everything up in the neighborhood and are expanding like crazy. Campus, this used to be a great track back in the day. A lot of running on this track. Campus has been really improved right up on the lakefront. Okay, I'm getting closer to downtown. I'm in the neighborhood of Edgewater now, which is just past Rogers Park. It's kind of a similar type neighborhood, but it has a lot of high-rises in it. It also has a private school behind me, Sacred Heart, that is very expensive school. Private, has a very limited outdoor space. You can see over there, small playground, but it's highly sought after, very good school. But people, clients that have sent their kids here, eventually some of them have moved to the suburbs and just have a big sigh of relief because of the commute before work to drop their kids here. It's pretty inconveniently located to a lot of neighborhoods. And you know, just really costly, and kids are from all over the place, so it's a little bit harder to get together for school activities and play dates and things like that. So, but a great school academically, and right here in Edgewater. You can see the city there, and then there's this beautiful tucked in area here that has a great restaurant right along the lake. This is very tucked in. Honestly, I've never even been here before. I always drive by it, but never come in here. This is very beautiful, and this is in Edgewater. Well, we're moving on south, and here are all the high-rises in Edgewater, right on the lake. These units have beautiful views in the morning. Really gorgeous views of downtown Chicago, too. And this is, we used to call it Hollywood Beach. Really nice beach, just where you get on Lakeshore Drive, the main thoroughfare to downtown Chicago. Here's an underpass to Lakeshore Drive that says "Welcome to Edgewater." You come through from the neighborhood and you go right out to the parks and to the beach right there. And then you can take the bike paths all the way downtown Chicago, which is probably another 5-6 miles. This is Lakeshore Drive. One of the biggest advantages to living in Evanston, Wilmette, Rogers Park, Edgewater, any of the lakefront neighborhoods is you're right on the lake, and you can take Lakeshore Drive to downtown Chicago versus taking expressway, which takes a heck of a lot longer and is more crowded. Lakeshore Drive, even in the worst traffic, is not that bad, and you look at the lake the whole time. This is Foster Beach. You do not have to pay to get on any Chicago beaches. They're open to everyone. They have lifeguards, and each beach has a little different personality. The pink building off in the distance, there used to be a resort right next to it, and the lake went all the way up to that building. The beach went across Lakeshore Drive before it was there. And this beach, pretty amazing how crowded it is today, really. A lot of people get in the shade over here. It's like 85 degrees, or maybe a little warmer today. Just real busy. And they have a beach house, which has bathrooms, snacks. Okay, I have been walking, and honestly, I've been running too. I'm a runner, and I'm not used to walking so far. I get a little impatient here, so I probably have run a couple, 2-3 miles on the way down here. We're moving into another neighborhood here. You can see the buildings behind me across Lakeshore Drive a little bit, but the next neighborhood over after Edgewater is Uptown. Uptown has some amazing history. Green Mill Jazz Club, very, very, very well known. Aragon Ballroom. U2 played at the Aragon. A lot of huge names that played there early in their careers. And there are a lot of condos that have been converted in Uptown. A lot of big apartment buildings that have been converted and are pretty reasonably priced. Some of them have parking, some don't. The homes are kind of, big brick or stone historic homes. The property values around there over the last 20 years have increased steadily and dramatically the last few years. Really close to Wrigley Field, probably about 6-7 minute drive, close to the lake here, and close to going up north. Sometimes people work up in Evanston or the northern suburbs, take Lakeshore Drive up there. So Uptown is after Edgewater, and it's very interesting because about every mile ish the neighborhood changes along here in the city. This is a greatly needed old school Chicago drinking fountain on a day like today. And you can see that there are wide open spaces here. So much room out on the lakefront. It's one thing that makes Chicago so great. Just amazing beauty. All right, we're moving on closer to downtown. The next neighborhood is Buena Park. And we're getting really close to Wrigleyville, where Wrigley Field is. This is an incredible track right on the lakefront, just beautiful. And behind me is Cricket Hill. So there is a big time college cross country meet here. If you want the course, let me know if you want to run it, but it's all through the lakefront here. It goes up the hill behind me, and it's just really a beautiful area of the city here. Again, on the other side of Lakeshore Drive, where all the housing is, that is Buena Park is starting there, getting close to Wrigley Field. You can see all the cars getting off Lakeshore Drive. It is packed, and you can't even go by the beach on a day like today. You have to park elsewhere today. So some big buildings, high rises, big brick buildings across Lakeshore Drive in the Buena Park neighborhood. They are a lot less expensive than the ones further south. Dramatically less, always have been. It's a different neighborhood, not as high priced, but very close to downtown on the lake. And if there's not enough beauty along the lakefront, there's a golf course right up on the lake here. Just beautiful in the summer. People really enjoy it, a public course. All right, we've made it to Lakeview, which is where Wrigley Field is. Wrigleyville is part of Lakeview. These buildings, there's some really historic buildings. They have very high monthly fees in some of these brick buildings here. And then there's a building, you can just barely see it. A lot of Chicago Cubs have lived in that building during the season when they lived here. Sammy Sosa used to live in the building right over there. And there's some pretty inexpensive condos in this building here, 3950 Lakeshore. So, you know, it's a very desirable area here. And this is the start of Lincoln Park, the actual park, not the neighborhood. The park goes all along the lakefront. A long time ago, it used to be a cemetery. And, you know, the architects of Chicago that, you know, decided how the city would be built wanted all green space along the lakefront. And I would say they were geniuses because it's so beautiful. And then on the other side of Lakeshore here is where all the housing is. And so this is actually the park called Lincoln Park. And the neighborhood Lincoln Park is going to be the next neighborhood we hit. Home prices in Lakeview are typically around 2 to 3 million for the most part. The more expensive homes are 3 to 4.5 million typically. And the lot values have increased tremendously over the years, to the point now if you have a lot on a really desirable street that can sell for $800 or $1 million all day long. So the condos are plentiful in Lakeview. The ones close to the lake are mostly brick older buildings, and then a little bit further away from the lake and a little bit further from Wrigley are new construction. A lot of duplex downs, duplex ups, and 3-unit buildings or 6-unit buildings. There are some elevator buildings, and a lot of them do have penthouse roof decks. So you gotta be careful what you're buying though, because there's been some changes in the market over the last 5 years. This totem pole is a replica, but back in the 70s it was a real totem pole, but they did replace it with a replica. And Wrigley Field is 4 blocks down Addison right there. So this is, once again, amazing location, all green space. There's a marina, a harbor right up here where a lot of people have their boats, including Anthony Rizzo when he was here. This is Belmont Harbor, getting close to Lincoln Park here, the neighborhood. A lot of people keep their boats here. And then right here on the side is a little hidden gem. This dog beach has been here for a long, long time. A lot of fun here. And the running bike path, they have the bike path separated from the runners and walkers, which is pretty great. And just a beautiful, beautiful spot. And you can see the building that is the only building in Chicago that was built east of Lakeshore Drive on the lakeside. Lake Point Tower, a condo building. Beautiful building, has a big park as part of it. And that's the only building on the lakeside. Everything else is all green space, bike path, and parks. Chicago has many beautiful sculptures in Lincoln Park along the lake. This one pictures some Native Americans who obviously inhabited this area a long time ago. This is it. This is the start of Lincoln Park. You can see the skyline right here. Diversey Avenue starts Lincoln Park. There's a way to get into the lake from here from Diversey Harbor. So it's just a really, really beautiful, beautiful spot, and where you can really sense downtown Chicago right there. Much more densely populated area around here. We're in Lincoln Park, one of the always hottest, most established, stable areas in the city. Real estate value wise, the homes can go, you know, up to 30-40 million dollars, but typically, you know, they're right now, the newer ones are 4 to 5 million. Some are under 4, and the lots just to build a house are $1.5 million and more. So just a beautiful area. Usually people know this area if they have friends that have been to Chicago. They always mention this area to them. You can walk, ride your bike, bus, train, Uber easily to downtown Chicago, and some of the best restaurants and parks in the city. Just an incredible area. Okay, I don't want to interrupt the ceremony, but this is the theater on the lake, a beautiful venue that has concerts, restaurant, and they have weddings too. What's going on? This is it. The skyline of Chicago, Oak Street Beach right next to it. There is a professional volleyball tournament this weekend. This is kind of it in Chicago. One of the best known, most beautiful areas. And then over on the other side, of course, are a lot of high rises, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom condos. You can have lake views, you have co-ops, you can have roof decks. Everything's there for you. Single families are expensive, many of the condos are expensive, but there are many reasonable ones too in good buildings. This is North Avenue Beach, huge restaurant, lots of things they eat and drink, coffee, drinks. This is a famous beach. You can look at pictures from the 40s, 50s, 60s. This beach is packed right by downtown Chicago. Really active fun. This is right on the border of Lincoln Park and the Gold Coast. This is some of the most expensive real estate in the city. You can see the John Hancock. You can walk to it. It's less than a mile away. You can jump in the lake. You can swim at Oak Street Beach. Time for a water break for sure. If you were going to ask me the most beautiful area in Chicago, I would say it's right here. This for the next half mile. It's absolutely beautiful. Been featured in many advertisements. Many photographers have shot this. And then that's the Mag Mile, downtown Chicago, high-rise condos. 3 of the most expensive buildings in the city right there. And then here you have the Gold Coast, which is right next to Old Town, which is right next to Lincoln Park. This is where all the mansions are. There's still a few where they were and where all the high-rises were built. Some of the most expensive real estate in the city. Michael Jordan has owned here. Many, Ray Kroc owned right on top of the building right there. Just incredible real estate here. So just call, text, email if you want information about anywhere in Chicago. Downtown, Gold Coast, Old Town, Lincoln Park. It's absolutely beautiful and a beautiful place to live. Okay, I gotta tell you, I've never done anything like this before. It was probably about 16 miles that I walked, probably ran 4 miles, probably walked 12. It was really beautiful day to do it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this, learn a little bit about the city. Just call, text, email if you need anything at all. Chicago is one awesome place, and the suburbs on the North Shore there that I showed you at the beginning, all along the lakefront here, is just gorgeous. If it was warm in Chicago all the time, everyone would live here.